Welcome to Spiritual Talk with Christy, Godwin, and Friends, an authentic podcast where we sit and discuss all things spiritual.
Astrology.
Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Spiritual Talk with Christy, Godwin, and Friends. I am the resident psychic medium, Christy Godwin. I'm here with world-renowned astrologer, Iris Libby. How are you, Iris?
I am good, Christy. Thank you for having me on your podcast again.
Thank you. So now you can reach Iris just about anywhere when you type in the words Ask Iris Libby. You can internet, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, it is all there. But it will be in the verbiage of this, wherever you're seeing this, whether it's on YouTube or if you're listening to it on a podcast outlet, how you can reach her is on the bottom. Now, today we are here to talk about a very well-known couple, Tom Brady and Gisele, and their breakup. Now, I do want everyone to know we did not tap them psychically at all because you should never read someone without their permission. All the information we're talking about today has been gained through astrology charts and is public knowledge, right, Iris?
It's public information. Yes, everything that all the charts we're looking at are based on their birth date, time, and place. That is public knowledge.
Right. So we are not tapping these people at all psychically. Now, I do have something for all the listeners out there. If you would like Iris and I to look at something in your life psychically and astrologically, email one of us and we will get back to you. If we can't, of course, do everyone who's going to email us, but we'll randomly choose. It can be a relationship, but you have to be involved in the relationship. You have to have some skin in the game for us to tap it psychically, right?
Yes. Also, if you want us to look at something from an astrological standpoint, we would need the time they were born, the date, and the place. And we need exact time because astrology is a very precise, I'm going to say it's a science. It's a science to me.
Yes, it really is.
You know, recently I was looking at someone's chart. He told me he was born at 12 midnight. And I'm like, you weren't born at 12 midnight.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, how can you tell? Well, I connect to people's moons. And I said, this is showing a Virgo moon. I know you have a Libra moon. And sure enough, he called his mom. The time was wrong. He had 0 degrees, 26 minutes of a Libra moon.
Yes.
So the exact time.
It is true. I have done that. Like I'll enter someone's chart and I'll have their exact time, but I will have not changed the AM to PM or vice versa. And you look at it and you're like, this is not matching them. And then you relook at the time you enter and it's like, oh yeah, fat fingered that. Okay, that is absolutely true. We need that. And also we can look at not just romantic relationships, but business relationships or relationships between friends, any of that, any kind of relationships can be looked at. Or if there is something that you want us to look at in history.
Oh, yes.
That would be a fun one also. Maybe, how could we have predicted a certain upheaval or uprising or something in the future? So
for instance,
email.
Yeah, I want to bring something up, and that is Pluto is going to be going into Aquarius. Pluto is a planet. I know they say it's not, but it is.
I do. I hate Pluto as a planet. That poor thing, he is a planet.
Anyway, he is going into Aquarius in mid-January for the first time since the American and the French Revolution. And so Aquarians, which I happen to be one, we're about revolution. We're about human rights.
Yes.
For the people, by the people. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the world. And by the way, it does take a while for that energy to get going.
Yes. And it's funny. I have been having, so this happened with COVID and now it's happening again. I'm getting similar messages for a lot of my clients for what's coming up for them next year. Maybe you can tell the same energy is behind it. Like it's affecting each one of them differently, but there is a common theme behind the energy And
Mhm.
so next year is going to be a very interesting year. All right, but let's get on with what we're here today. Now we are here to look at Tom Brady and Gisele. Iris
Okay,
is going to show a chart on the screen. So for
okay.
those of you looking at it on YouTube, you will see a chart. If you're listening to it on a podcast outlet, we will just make sure we describe it really well. So now
Okay.
she has pulled this up. Now the first thing I see, Iris, is all that activity in their ninth house.
That's right. That's right. So, but I want to start with talking about them in general. But yes, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planets in their ninth house. Their Sun, their Mars, they have Black Lilith there, which is not a planet, it's a calculation. Their Mercury and their Jupiter. And what it says to us is that this relationship is a relationship that is more intellectual than physical, that they are, because this is the house of higher education, higher knowledge. It's also a lucky place. But when you have ninth house planets like this, basically, it's not necessarily a love match. And
Yes. And you can tell when you see this in people's charts, it's kind of like not that they don't love each other, but it can sometimes end up being a business agreement. You're about there for a greater cause than just.
yeah. But they do have Venus in their 7th house, but it is opposing Neptune here. So Venus
Mhm.
in the 7th house is about love, but it's in Gemini. So Geminis are, they have the 2 personality. It's not really a love planet, right? So they're very busy in their relationship. And also they tend to look at each other with rose-colored glasses, so they're not seeing the full picture. But if you look at Tom and Gisele in general, they had very strong passions for each other and an intense irritation, which
Yes.
erupted between the 2 of them. Okay, so you see the moon is in the 2nd house and it's squaring Pluto. So what that says, a square is a
Okay.
very hard
Let's
degree.
real quick, Iris, can we go back for everyone who is watching, who is not really doesn't understand astrology? When you said the moon is in the 2nd house, now the 2nd house is about.
The 2nd house is about personal possessions. And when you have your, well, first of all, their moon is in Capricorn. And when your moon's in Capricorn, having your moon there is more or less it's a business relationship. It's about attaining wealth. It's not, again, not a love match. Capricorn is a very cold moon. This relationship is about working. Their emotions are all about like where they're going to be getting in life. Okay. Then it's squaring, which is a 90-degree aspect, Pluto, which is transformation. So the 2 of them are getting transformed in this relationship, which is basically what's going on.
Now, I do want to mention to people, like all that Iris has said, that when you have all those energies, you can have a happy relationship and a great respect and desire for the other person for quite some time. But the problem is, or when you look at these energies, they don't always allow you to overcome those big obstacles that happen in relationships.
Right, right. So,
And obstacles are going to happen in relationships. That's just the way it is.
and I want to say one more thing about a 2nd house moon. This is about attaining material success. And sometimes people stay together when they have a 2nd house moon in Capricorn, right? Which is a very cold moon. It's not a warm moon. So people will stay together just because they want to keep their wealth. you know, and it's a trap. It could get it's a real trap. Now, the 11th house is about your hopes, your ideals. It's about, you know, why you've come together. But when you have this square here, it kind of creates some havoc because it means that your encounters with each other are very intense. Now, that intensity could be positive or it could be negative, and basically they're working on each other's psyche, right?
Yes.
So they're setting each other off, and it's a not so subtle power game or power struggle that they're having. And again, it's from Libra. So Libra is an air sign, which means that, you know, and with all of their 9th house planets here, there was so much communication between them. They talked a lot. Now, I want to point something else out here. You see, you have Sun and Mars, right? They're conjunct, which is like lighting a match. It means that they're next to each other. So they take on each other's energy, and it's square Uranus. Now, Uranus is sudden change, it's revolution. It also, when you have these squares, which is a hard aspect to your Sun and Mars, what that basically means is they would suddenly start fighting with each other, or suddenly their moods would change. So that is a lot to deal with it. And I want to say that, and that's why I said that they would get irritated with each other because of this Uranus aspect here.
It's that kind of energy where you're just having a great day, then all of a sudden something sets someone off and they're like, boom. And then because that person is set off, then that sets this person off because of this energy.
Right.
And I
Now,
do want to also mention anyone, I don't know if anyone has watched the last podcast you did when you did mine and my husband's chart. Hard aspects are not always a negative thing. You do have to have it to catapult you into higher levels of relationships and to just make changes that you need to make throughout life. It's just according to how they're aspected.
and thank you for saying that, Christy, because it is important, but these hard aspects are irritating aspects.
Yes, it's all about how they're aspected. Yes, about the, you know, how are, and when I say aspected, that means, you know, how they're connected, what planets connect to what planets.
Yes.
And what energies are brought in.
So I want to go back to this Venus opposed Neptune. What happened here is they looked at each other with rose-colored glasses, which is what I said before, but they over-idealized each other. They thought they were getting something else. Something else I want to mention is that they have Sag rising. And when you have Sag rising, this is their composite chart together, it makes you the it couple. So everybody saw them as this it couple, but they both expected to get someone else. They wanted their personal freedom. So they wanted the other person to really, they wanted to be the leader. They're people who, you know, they have their own following, and it really, it makes a big difference. So when you have Sag rising and you're a couple, you find yourself at odds with your daily existence because they were thinking in terms of the big picture, but they forgot that they have to have a relationship, and there's a day-to-day interaction when you're having a relationship. So together, they didn't want to be bound by rules or schedules. They wanted to lead these very independent lifestyles. And so, you know, they also traveled a lot, which we all noticed. And the other issue is, but I feel like they had a pretty good commitment. I mean, I'm not checking into them psychically, but there's issues with commitment, okay? When you have Sag rising, because you both want personal freedom.
Yes.
And there's, go ahead.
They want someone who is going to be there to fully support just them and not doing their own thing.
Right.
And these two people, rightly so. I mean, they are very big leaders in their respective industries. And so they very much led these separate lives, which they had to. And sometimes that does work with partners, but not when you have the satirizing. That just tells you each person needs someone who is going to fully support and kind of commit to their schedule.
Yes. So I want to say that Giselle's emotional response to Tom is a tense, although exciting mixture of desire and annoyance. And there was a thin line between anger and passion.
Mhm.
And, and when you think about that, that's kind of explosive, right?
Yes.
And Giselle's sensuality and appreciation of beauty and quality had this huge expansive effect, the ninth house expansion, on Tom's mental outlook, making him see life as bigger and broader and a more interesting place to be, more of ninth house. So she really expanded his world. Now, Gisele very likely felt great compassion toward Tom's fears and insecurities around achievement and material security. And
Mhm.
also, she had an uncanny knack for seeing past Tom's defenses and his deeper
Yes.
anxieties. But
I was gonna
I
say
want go
Giselle is very she has a great healing energy when it comes to that.
Yeah, she has a Scorpio moon. So yes,
Mhm.
he does. I'm going to say one thing about their relationship, one more thing, or a couple more things, and then I want to show you how I could tell that their relationship was having challenges. Now, just because your relationship is having challenges doesn't mean it's going to break up. It
That is
means
correct.
that you have to get through these challenges, and
Mhm.
they didn't. But their relationship was about mutual advancement or expansion of both their lives. And
I was
they, go ahead.
I was gonna say what I have seen because you were talking about their relationship is really about building wealth and material goods.
Mhm.
Now, what I have seen when I have read people and they've come to me and I've read them psychically, and you're talking about this, and sometimes it will be a mediumship where I'm talking to past loved ones and why they stayed in relationships that their family didn't really understand. Now, with Tom and Giselle, they both have enough wealth that they can break up and still lead their current lifestyle. If they're in a situation where if you break up, it's going to significantly impact your lifestyle, that's when these energies will stay together and tend to overlook those other faults just because it will impact their material life so much.
Exactly, exactly. And I want to say that, there was a lot of expansion in this relationship, and this partnership made Tom feel vital and alive. He felt like he could conquer the world with this relationship because Giselle knew how to boost his self-confidence. Now, I'm going to show you a chart here where we can see how this whole thing began to fall apart. Okay.
Okay, let's see
So
it.
this is Giselle's chart
Okay,
from,
wait a minute, Iris. I'm not seeing a chart.
oh, okay, hold on a minute. I thought I put it up. 1 second. You're not seeing a chart. Are you seeing it now? I did this wrong.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, I can cut all this out.
1 moment. Okay, I need to stop share and put up this new share. Okay, can you see the chart now?
I can.
Okay, fabulous. Okay, so this is Giselle's chart from January 1st, 2016. So this is the beginning of the end of their relationship, and I'm going to show you why. So Pluto was in Capricorn, and Gisele natally has Capricorn rising, okay? And people who have Capricorn rising are people who are their position for success. They look at success in life. And transit Pluto, Pluto in the sky was in Capricorn at 15 degrees on her midheaven, and it was going into her first house of self. Now, the first house of self meant that when Pluto goes in, that she was transforming who she is as an individual. Not only that, at the same time, it was opposing her seventh house of relationships. And what that says is she wanted something different in a relationship. And this is around the time that, later that year, Tom Brady came out and said he was retiring from Major League Football because she wanted him to be at home with the family. There's another big indicator here, which is her progressed Venus. Now, every year we live, our chart progresses one day. So we're looking at her progressions for that year, and her Venus had progressed into her seventh house of relationships, and it was being opposed, which is a hard aspect, by Pluto, which says what she wanted in life, in a relationship, was different than when they got together.
Absolutely, yes. So now what Iris just said, when you had this hard aspect, so you have Pluto opposing Venus and transformation. It's going to be changing. Now, what I see with this is that, I do want to tell everyone that just because you're going through a transition, you're transforming, doesn't mean your relationships are going to end. It just means they're going to change. And you see that all the time with married couples and their morphing of relationships and how they change over time.
And you have to change with that energy in relationships. I always say there's 4 pillars. It's emotional, physical, intellectual, and spiritual. And you have to be growing in those areas together. And if you stop or you can't, then that's when the relationship changes. Do you see?
And I see that so much, especially as people, that's why you see people really a lot of marriages ending like after the kids leave. It's just because you're transitioning, you're transforming. And not everyone, if both the people in the relationship aren't transforming, then it becomes an issue.
That's right. Do you see Tom's chart up now, or do you still see Gisele?
Just Gisele's.
Okay. All right. So now I'm going to put Tom's chart up for that same.
And I do want to say Gisele's chart is gone, but in there is her great love for her children.
Oh, yes. Okay. Should I go back to that?
No, that's okay. But I just wanted to bring that up because when you look at her chart, you can just tell, not that all moms don't love their children, but this lady, her life is her children.
She's all about, I want to go back there because I think that's very important when we're looking at charts that we show that, because yes. Okay. So she has great love for her children. First of all, her 5th house of children is ruled by Venus. Okay. And she has Venus in her 6th house. So she is someone who can work and care for her children at the same time. And not only that, she wants to empower. There's a trine to Pluto here. She wants to empower her children. And she really she's good with them, this Jupiter aspect. She also keeps a tight rein on them. Okay. And she looks at them with rose-colored glasses. So anyway, you are correct.
She's really, just the energies in her chart. Now, can energies, just because they're there doesn't mean people kick them in, but she does. I mean, she is A very good mother.
Yes, she totally kicks them in. Okay, so let's look at Tom's chart for that same year. Although in this case, I pulled up March because that's when his aspects hit. Okay, so Pluto is in Capricorn, that's transformation. And Pluto is about to hit his fourth house of home. What does that say? Your home is going to transform. It's
Yes.
going to change. There'll be a death and rebirth. At the same time, it is squaring his ascendant, his rising. That's how he projects himself to the world. So he is changing too, himself, right? And it's squaring his seventh house of relationships. So he's changing who he is. His home is changing. His relationship is changing. On top of that, he has Uranus, the planet of sudden change, right on his descendant, which rules his house of relationships. And what that says to me is your marriage is going to change. Now, again, I have seen people get through these times, but it takes a lot of hard work. But he had announced this year he was retiring from football because she wanted him home with the kids. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it makes sense. And I do want to, so when you see this sudden change come into a chart, then you look on what is the basis of this relationship. The basis of this relationship, yes, did they have great affection for each other? Of course, but it was also about building this material wealth.
Now,
So now, when
go
you go
ahead.
back to that, okay, if people don't have enough material wealth to be satisfied if they split, then you will see some relationships making it through. Or if there's some other aspects in there that causes them to just dig their heels and say, no, let's go to counseling, let's make it work. But they were able to then, and then you have this spirit about them that is so independent at work. So can you have that independent spirit and stay together? You can, but you're really going to have to work, especially when they both have in their charts this huge independent spirit where they want to be going their own way.
Exactly.
Those are a lot of difficult energies to overcome.
So let's look at how Tom looks at his kids. He has Uranus ruling his fifth house of children. And where is his Uranus? It's in his first house of self. So what does that say? He sees his kids as individuals, but a reflection of him.
Yes.
Also, it has this really nice aspect. It's called a trine to Venus and to Venus. And what that says to me, and Jupiter, what that says is that he loves his kids too.
Yes.
Them very much. He's very good to his children.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that.
No, I agree. And that's something I loved seeing in their charts is because, as a psychic medium, I come into contact with a ton of different people, that have transitioned to the other side. And some of the traumas that affected people, during divorces or when people use their kids to manipulate their relationship, are these people, they're not going to do that. I mean, they have a huge passion and love for their kids. And I really, looking at their charts tells me they're really going to walk into this with trying to put their kids' greatest good forward.
Yes. Okay. Do you see Giselle's chart now?
I do.
For November 1st,
Yes.
2018. Okay. So to November 1st, 2018, you see some more changes here. Okay. So you see now Saturn restriction is going over her first house. Okay. So now, and it's a first house of self, and it's opposing her progressed Venus and her seventh house of relationships. So now what's happening? She is feeling restricted within this relationship. So he's announced his retirement. He's retired. And now that he's retired, she's feeling restricted. sometimes when you when you think you want something and you get it. So again, this doesn't mean that the relationship would necessarily break up. It means that they're going over some difficulties. Not only that, she has Uranus going through her fourth house of home, and she has Chiron. Chiron is an asteroid, and Chiron's known as the wounded healer who couldn't heal himself. So she had some healing to do in her home life.
And yes, I do want to be careful what you ask for, people. Be careful what you ask for. Like, you have these extremely independent, according to the charts, they're very independent, kind of strong-willed people. And so she was allowed a certain amount of independence when Tom was, so involved in football. But now you have him back home with you. So it is some restriction I'm sure she was feeling there. It shows it in the chart, that restriction.
That's right. So can you see Brady's chart now?
Yes, progressed to February 7th, 2018. Yeah.
Okay, so now we've progressed this to February 7th, 2018, as Pluto is entering his fourth house, and Saturn, fourth house of home and family, and Saturn is also, Pluto has entered and Saturn is about to enter. So he's feeling restricted at home. He's got Uranus change going through his seventh house. He's feeling irritated at home. He's feeling his relationship is changing. It's not what he signed up for, and it's opposing his first house of self. So he's irritated, basically.
Basically, the man is irritated and feeling restricted. And then you have Gisele, who is feeling restricted. And yes, we talked about these energies. If anyone is running their own charts, don't think because you see these same energies in your chart that it means a breakup. What astrology does is it tells you the energies that are at play so that you can work within them.
Okay. So now they announced, I think the end of October, that they were getting divorced. Okay. And you'll see this is very interesting. Well, Pluto is still in Gisele's house, and it is opposing her sun. And
okay, so now what Iris just said is that Pluto is still in her first house, which is the house of self.
Right. And
opposing her sun.
In the house of relationships. So Gisele is a real relationship person. Actually, that's where she shines. And she is seeing right now, she's changing in what she wants, who she wants, what kind of relationship she wants. And so she's not done with this transformation until, let me give you that date. It's she'll be done with this transformation December, in the middle of December 2023. So my advice is don't get married before then, because in December 2023, you're going to realize that what you want is totally different because you have changed your needs and desires.
Absolutely. And in my world, I would just call that give yourself some healing time.
Okay. Yes, exactly. But this is the world of astrology. Also, I need to point out that Jupiter, which is abundance, is now going through her fourth house. So she feels much better at home now. But she does feel the change that she's going to have to be sharing her children now. And also she's probably meeting people and dating because she has Uranus going through her fifth house. Fifth house rules children, lovers, gambling, creativity. And so basically, but anyone she meets under these aspects is not going to be a long-term relationship, because when you have Uranus aspects going through your fifth house, it's never long-term. Makes sense?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Yes,
Now,
it's about change and transition, and absolutely.
We are going to look at Tom's chart. Now, Tom isn't having the same easy time dating. He's not going to be, because he has Saturn, which is restriction, going through his fifth house. Okay. He still has Pluto in his fourth house of home and family. So he's still going through a transformation there. And
Mhm.
it's going to take quite some time till he feels good about it. Also, he has Chiron, which is the wounded healer, going through his seventh house of relationships. So he is going to need to do some healing there.
Mhm. Mhm.
What he wants, what kind of life he wants. And I will say something else that's interesting. I know that he announced that he is going to play football again. And I believe he started. I'm not a big football fan, so I don't really know. I hate to
I
say.
know, me either. So
But anyway, I know that he announced it, but interestingly enough, his progressed son has gone into his 12th house, okay? And the 12th house is a hidden house. So I am going to say, I don't see him playing football the way he did. I don't see him being the superstar he was, on the field. Not,
right.
he is a superstar. He'll always be a superstar,
Absolutely.
not on the field. Do you agree with that based
I
on his?
do agree. He's going to transition into, it's like a kicking as he's doing this healing in the relationships, as he's transitioning, his whole life is changing and transitioning as he's healing this breakup. And what he wants is going to change, and he will find another avenue to be a superstar.
Right. Well, because he shines, where he shines is in his career. So this is the
Mhm.
10th house, it rules career. And he has his sun here conjunct, lighting a match, Saturn. So he is very, not only does he shine in his career, but he also is very dedicated to it. He's a
Mhm.
very hard worker. He wants success, and he will
Mhm.
be successful. I want to say something else about Tom's chart. He did marry correctly by marrying a woman who was not from the United States,
Mhm.
because he has Venus in his ninth house. Venus is love, and this is the house of foreign travel or foreigners. And he has Jupiter conjunct his Venus, which means he's lucky with women from other countries. So that was a
Mhm.
good move on his chart, on his part. One other thing I will say is Tom is very lucky. He has
Yes, yes.
a grand trine in fire. And these are very rare. I happen to have one. I'm not as lucky as him, but I'd say I'm pretty lucky.
I'd say you're pretty lucky. I'd say you are.
But anyway, he has a grand trine in fire, which means that all he has to do is basically drink the Kool-Aid and he's off and running. Whatever the vision is, he can make it happen.
And what
Um,
I want to mention is earlier, Iris had talked about the energies in the chart and looking at Gisele through rose colored glasses. And that is why that energy mixed with, yes, he married correctly someone from a foreign country because he's going to need that energy
yeah,
to make it real. But then that looking at rose colored glasses, he saw what he felt like it was going to be. And when this relationship wasn't what he felt like it was going to be, is when rose colored glasses scenario is when the issues started occurring. And they both had some of that when the
they
relationship
both
ended up.
Yes, they both looked at each other with expectations. Like basically, they projected what they wanted to see on
Yes,
one another,
yes,
you know. And oftentimes people do that, and then
absolutely.
you realize, you're not the person I thought you were going to
Mhm.
be.
In my life coaching, I go through that a lot when people are grieving relationships and this, and I tell them, I say, you're not grieving the relationship you lost, you're grieving the relationship you wanted, which that relationship was never what you wanted. It's what you projected it to be.
It's interesting because I find that, people have that a lot. Um, and I want to bring up something else. When they have Neptune, which is illusion, in their first house, and that would be the first house of self in the relationship. And the challenge here is that they don't really understand what this relationship is about. Like they weren't really clear about their direction as a couple.
Mhm.
And,
Yes.
there's issues with this, even in love relationships. And,
Yes.
when they realize when those rose-colored glasses are taken off, it's quite difficult.
It is. I want to talk about that when Iris was talking about the illusion of the first house, is that in a relationship, you have to be headed to the same goal
Mhm. It-
overall.
It's true.
Yes, or it's just, not going to work. And again, I want to go back. Iris did mine and my husband's chart, and there are no relationships that are without challenges.
No. And if everything is too good to be true, it's too good to be true.
That is true. I always, I life coach people and they say, but such and such has this perfect relationship. It's like either you don't know or they're lying to you because there's no such thing.
So I want to talk about something else, and that is they had Uranus in their 12th house, and this is hidden, right? The 12th house is hidden. So this is something they can't really control because it's who they are as a couple. And when you have Uranus in your composite 12th house, it means that you are sending unconscious, disruptive energies to each other. So a lot of this was, it when you come together with another person, what happens is you create an entity, and then that entity will play out.
Yes. And that's when you look at the composite charts, that's what you're doing. You're having Tom's energy, Gisele's energy, no matter who you are. And that's the reason that we say we can look at relationship charts, you can look at business charts. You're combining these energies. Combined, what are these energies saying to each
That's
other?
right. That's right.
What are they talking about behind the scenes that you're not consciously aware of?
Yes. And if we were going to look at this composite chart and the Pluto aspects, so in January 2016, Pluto was in Capricorn in their second house. It was squaring their Pluto. So it was Pluto square, hard aspect Pluto. This is their house of goals. It's their house of, of where they're going as a couple. That got disrupted in 2016. And then in January 19th, oh no, I think it's December 2018, Pluto was conjunct the moon of their relationship. So that is that is a very disruptive energy. And
Mhm.
actually, a lot of people wouldn't be able to handle that. But I will tell you that they talked a lot. Their relationship was a lot, it was more about communication.
Which is a good thing because a lot of relationships don't have enough communication.
Right. It's just they didn't see eye to eye. They each
Right.
wanted their own needs met, which happens
Exactly.
often in relationships.
So you have to think about the energies we've talked about, lots of communication, which is great. But you
Mhm.
have these independent people who want their independence, and they, according to their charts, really needed someone who was going to come along and support them. So though they were communicating, it doesn't mean they were communicating about how they were going to get to this common goal. They were communicating about how each of them wanted to accomplish their goals and what they wanted from the other people.
Exactly, exactly. Now, with that said, I wish them both a lot of love and happiness in 2023 in their new lives,
Yeah.
living separately. And I do feel like they're going to be able to co-parent it's going to be a challenge, but they're going to be able to co-parent their children in a loving way.
And that's what I love for anyone who doesn't know. My undergrad work, my undergraduate is in child development. And I taught child development at a college level for many years. And so I always have a heart for kids. And sometimes um, I have seen it. I've seen it with transitioned loved ones. I've seen it with my life coaching. People will justify how they're treating their children, and it's affecting them long term. Tom and Gisele are not going to do that. They
Yeah.
both have these beautiful, loving energies towards their kids that I just love to see. And they are very much able to rise above what is happening in their own personal relationship with each other and look at the greater good for their kids. And I absolutely adore that energy in their charts.
Although it's going to be harder for Gisele to, let her to have the kids go with Tom, although she realizes it's got to be done.
Right,
She's
right,
going to do it in a loving way. But I think it's hard for a lot of mothers
right,
to send their
right.
kids off to their dads, or
Yes.
or some dads to send their kids off to their moms. So
Yes, thank you for mentioning that, Iris. That is so true. That is so perfect. I want everyone to kind of focus on that, what Iris just said, that yes, the energies are there, but it doesn't make it easy still. I mean, because Gisele is just very loving, hands-on, wants to be around her kids type of mom. So yes, she knows her greater good is to have a relationship with both the parents. So she's going to allow that with graciousness, but it doesn't mean it's easy for her.
Right. Because Tom is the kind of dad who lets his kids be them. He's not restrictive with them.
Mhm,
And she's more restrictive. She wants them to follow rules and things. He wants
mhm.
them to be them, which I think is both, it's both beautiful
Yes.
methods of parenting.
Right, absolutely. And together they can work great as a team parenting these kids. And yes, thank you for mentioning that, Iris. Just because the energies is there and you're capable of doing it doesn't mean it's easy. But we are all capable. I used to tell my kids all the time, which they have turned around and used these words on me, that we are capable of doing hard things. Doesn't mean it's easy, but we are capable of doing hard things.
100%. So,
Thank you so much for being here today, Iris. It was a pleasure as usual.
Christy, I love these conversations with you. I love bantering about
Yes.
charts and looking at charts. So if anyone wants us to look at something, we are happy to do it. Again, we can't look at everybody's, but we'd love to.
Right,
Oh,
absolutely. Make sure if you're messaging us that, because when you message us, we will look at it both through astrologically and psychically. Now, to be able to look at something psychically, it needs to be related to you directly, because you're not supposed to read people's energy. Ethically, you don't read people's energy without their permission. So message me or Iris. Our contact information will be in the verbiage of this podcast.
thank you.
Thank you. I hope everyone has a wonderfully blessed day.